This tutorial explains the basics of Polarion projects and how to get started creating them. The first thing to understand is that in order to create a new project, you have to have the necessary permissions. Although that gets into user management a little bit, it's important to understand basically how this works. So let's take a sneak peek at administration, which you would only see if you have administrator permissions. In Polarion, permissions are assigned to roles, and roles are then assigned to users. If we look here in Permissions Management for the repository, we can see the permission to create projects and the roles that are granted this permission. In Polarion's default out-of-box configuration, the admin and project admin roles have it, so any user who needs to create new projects must be assigned one of these roles. Of course, the whole roles and permission scheme is customizable, so there could be different roles in the Polarion system you work with. The main takeaway here is that your user account must be assigned some role which grants the permission to create projects. If you find you can't do it, talk to your Polarion admin about your permissions. Now that you know who can create projects, it's worth a couple of minutes to understand where you create them. We're working in the repository rather than a project, so I can use the repository browser to see what the entire repo folder structure looks like. Here's a view of a new Polarion installation. The .polarion and underbar wiki folders are for internal data storage, not projects. The demo projects folder is present only if the sample project data was installed. You probably don't want to create projects here. The library folder contains the reusable documents library, so it's not really for your projects either. Sandbox is for test projects, and you might consider creating a few of those in this folder before creating real production projects. For those, you can create new folders under Repository. Now you could do that from here, but you'll probably prefer to do it as you create new projects using the New Project Wizard. Which brings us to how to do that. I'm logged in as a user who has Project Create permissions. The default repository homepage makes it pretty obvious how to get started. But what if that page has been changed? No problem. Just go to the Opener widget in Navigation and select Create New Project. Let's say we're going to be creating a suite of mobile apps, and this is the first of several projects. Start by specifying the project ID. This value is used internally for linking and other things, so it needs to be unique in the system. Let's ID this one as MobileFoo. Notice how the repository URL is updated on the fly so you know exactly where you'll be creating this project. Now you need to specify the repository location for the project, which is why we took a moment to become familiar with our repository. By specifying a folder like Mobile Suite, you can create a project group folder for multiple related projects. Again, note the project URL. Now I don't want to create this project in the Suite folder, so I need to specify a folder for the actual project. Let's call that MobileFoo. Now the path is what I want, and it doesn't exist yet because Polarion would warn me if it did, so we're good to move on. The next step is to choose a project template. These provide default system configurations and content for different kinds of projects. Here we see the default templates that come with Polarion ALM. Project templates are outside the scope of this tutorial, but they're something you should definitely look at closely when you first decide to adopt Polarion, because one of the stock templates may well deliver everything you need to run your project. If not, you can customize any template to your exact needs. Either way, project templates that you reuse for many projects can save you a lot of work in the long run. Be sure to check the Polarion POP extensions portal too, because you might find exactly the template you need ready to plug in and run with. Let's say this is a project to specify the requirements for the MobileFoo app, so I'll choose the software specification template. After checking the summary, we go ahead and create the project. Now this can take anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on the complexity of the project template and other activity happening on the server. The last wizard screen has some project details, and some of these are important to address now. By default, name is the same value as the ID, but it's usually nice to specify something a bit more descriptive, as this is what other users will see in the Open Project dialog. So let's write mobile foo requirements. Project lead defaults to the user creating the project. If you're not the leader, you can select a different user. This value can be changed later in the project administration. By default, new projects are assumed to be active, and active projects are listed in the Open Project dialog, enabling users with global read permissions to see them. In most cases, you can just leave this field checked. You can set start and finish dates here or later in the project administration. These values aren't required here, but should be set before you start creating, planning, and estimating work items because the LivePlan project planning engine uses them. Tracker prefix is very important. Don't just accept the default here. The value should be unique within the system. Why is that? Well, developers can auto-link commits to project work items by citing work item IDs in commit messages when using external Subversion clients. If different projects have the same tracker prefix, commits can end up linked incorrectly, which induces inaccuracy into your traceability. Finally, description is what people will see on the project homepage. It's nice to enter something descriptive, but it's not absolutely necessary here because you or others will most likely edit the project homepage later. That's it for this tutorial on Project Basics, and hopefully it will get you started. At some point you might want to have a look at Projects Part 2, which covers turning existing repository folders into projects, adding users to projects, deactivating projects, and deleting projects you no longer need to keep around. If you have comments about this tutorial, you can use the form below, or if you have questions or need help with something, contact us at info@polarion.com.